Saturday, April the 26th is Churchill Downs opening night. It is the same night they draw the races for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. I believe the Kentucky Derby draw will be between races 5 and 6, and then race 6 kicks off a really nice late pick 5 sequence that me, Gina Bucola, and my good friend Barry Spears will be talking about. Barry, buddy, starting to feel real now. We're just about a week and a half away from the Kentucky Derby. We know the field will be drawn. We pretty much know the field unless anything happens in the next day or two where there'll be a change or two. But we know who's going to be in that field of 20. We'll find out the undercards for Oaks and for Derby. Busy times, my friend, ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, once they get on that track for the first race on Saturday night, all the juices are going to be flowing, and everybody knows that the Derby's on the horizon. But in the last couple of years, the pre-Derby days, leading up, have been really interesting as far as scratches and all kinds of things going on. So hopefully, things are a little calmer this year, but you never know what's going to happen between now and actual Derby day.
So right now we're still a few days out from when the races will be drawn. Barry and I are recording this on Thursday evening. You can purchase the Kentucky Derby packages right now. And if you do, you will save a bunch of money if instead of trying to purchase them next week, leading right up. And the reason why, on top of saving money, you can actually get the past performances for the Derby horses right now. So if you want the next couple days to get your handicapping done for that race, most of it, any replays you want to watch, look at any charts, look through the past performances like you would normally. And then when they draw the races and they have the, post positions, if you need to make any adjustments there based on what you think, but you can start to at least get ahead with that race. Then you'll get all these other things as part of the package. There's a package if you want to look at stuff for Friday and Saturday. And then there's another one just for Saturday races with the past performances, the betting strategies, the player's guide, and the clocker reports. Mike Welsh has been there at Churchill Downs live on site. He's giving daily clocker reports that are in written form and on the videos that you can watch on the DRF YouTube. And then all that information will be there along with all the other horses, not even just the Oaks and Derby runners. So DRF has so much for you. Go purchase those packages right now. You'll save the money. You're going to get them next week. So might as well save yourself cash right now. Barry, we're going to make ourselves some cash on Friday night over at Churchill Downs. You had a nice big price last week in the sequence that we were looking at. What was that, 16-1 winner, Utah Beach?
Yeah. He ended up paying 25.40.
So 13-ish, 12, 13
yeah.
around there when it was all said and done. But very nice play, my friend. So got some good mojo. And I think I just talked with Chase. So I think I'm going to join you guys next week to talk some Kentucky Oaks on Notorious OTB. And we'll have some fun there. So let's talk Churchill. If you want to follow along with us, we're going to be looking at races 6 through 10. This is the late pick 5 sequence for opening night. This 6th race will be right after they've just drawn the fields for the Kentucky Derby. It's a maiden 50 claimer, Barry. They're going 6.5 on the dirt here. We're looking at the DRF past performances, formulator style. What jumped out to you in this race? I'll kind of set up some of the major players in here. It's pretty spread out. I mean, horses like the 2 and 3 will take a little bit of cash. The 4, Topinka, dropping in class, his face better, moving towards the outside. Horses like the 10, Sinister Smile, was actually entered in a race at Keeneland, I believe on Lexington Day, and scratched out of there because I like this horse a little bit in a race, I think, when he was cutting back in distance to 6.5 over at Keeneland. And then you've got Classy War, who's taking some money at Gulfstream Park. But I don't know if any of them are going to be like an overwhelming favorite, Barry. It feels like 4 or 5 of them will take some money.
Yeah, this is a really tough race, to be honest, to start the sequence because, there's a lot of situations where a lot of these horses could jump up and win.
Yep.
They're all kind of coming into the race the same way.
I know.
And it's like, you have to split hairs somewhere to try to get to a horse to maybe pick. But man, it's really tough. I mean, I started with Sinister Smile, the 10, but I have a lot of questions on a horse like this. Getting blinkers off, getting back to the dirt. This horse couldn't finish things off and had every right to win that first race off the bench February 23rd and just didn't. I don't know if that'll translate to the dirt, but it can't be a good feeling because if you look at this horse's body of work, it really hasn't improved. It's been the same since he started. So I
might, and with the blinkers coming off and cutting back, he's going to be a little farther back than he was in those last couple of races where he was sitting pretty close. So yeah, I think he fits at a class level. You're right. And I started with him too, but he's certainly not a horse who I'd want to take less than like his morning line.
His morning line, right. That's the best price you could probably get.
Agreed.
Anything higher, you definitely would want to think twice, but I don't think he's going to be too far off this
yeah, I think that's
price.
Where he'll fit. I think he probably, he like he's in that mix, but if he gets bet down a little bit, then you're looking for others.
Right, and I think there's some others, including the 9, the horse right inside of him that's really interesting. I like that race going long, and the cut back into this level on the drop makes total sense. Getting Machado, who's been riding very, very well, and I think the pace scenario might fit this horse. I think this might get a little hot up front. There's enough speed in here with the 2 Shadowcast, Holster, and others. Lemon Son might show some speed. So I think the pace will be honest enough where it's going to be kind of a fairly run race. You're not going to get a loose leader loping along on the lead.
Daiquiri Sommelier, the 9, who is 10-1. And did show a little bit of speed routing, but now on the cutback to 6.5 won't be there. Yep, he was one that was in the mix for me too. No doubt about it.
The 1 is also interesting to me. I think the morning line's a little bit high because this horse is, going turf to dirt. And I don't really think this was a turf horse to begin with anyway. I think they just kind of needed or wanted to get at least a race into this horse. And now you see this horse come east, which is very, very interesting. I like those 2 kind of maintenance works, but honestly, this race is any kind.
Yeah.
And I can certainly see a horse like Pop Paul just getting great position from the rail. As long as Leparoux gets him out of the gate, he might be able to sit a great trip. Same thing with Shadowcast. Those 2 horses in particular kind of piqued my interest.
The dam of this horse was 2 for 3, showed some ability, getting a first-time gelding. The horse who he lost to in the debut came right back out of that race to win the John Shearer Stakes. There were 2 next out winners in that debut race, so it's come back strong, and you're getting a drop in class. The 2 Shadowcast, you get the cutback, you get the drop in class. The race at the 3 ran at Keeneland.
Right.
That was it's a fine race. Like, that was against maiden $100,000 claimers. So against this maiden 50 group, that fits really, really well.
Probably the same kind of race. I mean,
yeah, it is. The 4 Topinka, if you toss the grass races and you just look at the first 2 dirt races that he was in at Gulfstream Park, that's at the championship meet. Those were loaded races at that time of the year. He lost to Speakeasy, who was a really highly regarded horse who was supposed to run in the Fountain of Youth and then just got hurt and then was off for a while and didn't end up showing up till back in July of last year. Then Victory Avenue was in there. This was a really highly regarded horse for Delgado. Big City was a horse who had really good speed and then came back and was pretty live. It threw up like 90 buyer speed figure plus. So was in a very tough race. 4th place finisher, Corporate Power, Sir Barton winner, the stakes winner over there.
And what's funny about that horse? If you look at his whole body of work, right? They started on the dirt, and you see the horses that this horse ran into.
Yep.
They must have thought that this horse didn't want any part of the dirt, and that might not have been true because
it just might have been the company, right?
Right. The race was completely loaded. That first one,
and then the second one here,
loaded.
BU was another horse who had like really highly regarded when he won his maiden. He earned a 96 buyer speed figure. He was only 7-1 in the Bluegrass coming off of that race because he was 3rd in the American Pharoah. He faced some nice horses early in his career. That was the same Big City. Jefferson Street was the horse who was really, really fast early, and then he kind of settled a little bit more. He was 2nd in the Amsterdam. You have even Howard Wallowitz, who's a Grade 1 winner.
Great. He's
Franklin Simpson,
nice horse,
really nice horse too. You and I talked about him when he went over and won that stakes race at Turfway. Mo Rhodes was in there and in good win form. So if you just look at his 2 dirt sprints where he ran 5th and 5th, and you're thinking like, But then you look back and the races came up fast and those horses were all good at that time. He probably was just fifth in races that he was behind 4 better horses.
Oh, absolutely.
In a field of 11 and then a field of 9. My only concern would be he doesn't seem now in all of his races to have that much early speed.
Yeah.
Either, but they've been trying to in the mornings, he's been fast recently. So maybe they're going to try something new with him and see if they can get a little aggressive on the drop in class. And that could help just getting him in the race a little bit more, because he should be fit, cutting back from all races going a little bit longer than he is here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the switch to Moncada says that they're probably going to try to push it. Yeah, and that's probably not a bad move in this kind of race, as long as they're not just all out speed dueling,
but just sitting like third or fourth, right? Like
getting position, basically.
Yeah, you use a little more to get position, because you feel like, okay, if you have to use some early to get position, I'll still be a little fit late. Second start off the long layoff and cutting back. So yeah, he's going to be in the mix for me.
Yeah, you
we
can't
don't really
talk
talk
him.
No,
yeah, I think he's going to be favored.
He might be over the 10 and the 10.
Yeah,
probably.
Between him and Sinister Smile, they'll probably be vying for favoritism. But I mean,
what do we do
this
with
race is wide open?
The Gulfstream horse here, Classy War for Gary Barber. Shout out Gary Barber.
I mean, you have to assume that he really isn't a synthetic horse.
No, and his January, so they debuted him in a stakes race last year early on, so they thought enough of him early.
They gave it a try, I think.
That was just yeah, and then he's off. He comes back going a mile, and then he tries a mile again on the synthetic. He cuts back on the synthetic. He's definitely run in spots, and he's had some trouble in a couple of his races. Like, there's something there with him. So sprinting on the dirt is kind of like, he might
next
be a
thing that has to be the next thing, and then going long on the dirt, right?
Yeah, they take a try on. So he certainly wouldn't shock either in this really difficult race to start.
I would like to see that horse higher than 5-1.
I agree.
I would seriously take consideration, but if he's 5-1, I don't know whether
if he starts floating up to like 8 to 10. Then he starts becoming, I agree with you. He's gotten bet a little in a couple of his races, so you wonder with that. But this is a wide open race, and they can't bet everybody. Barry starts with the 9 and 10 as horses who he's definitely looking at towards the top of the radar. 10 for me for sure. I wanted to mention a lot about the 4, Topanga. I mean, even look down towards the inside. Pop Paul was a long shot. Barry tossed into the mix. The 3 Holster will be on some tickets for me too. Good luck in the 6th. You're going to need it in a difficult, and it's not like this is a good maiden 50 race, because you have a lot of these horses dropping. Like, these are horses that are just like a little overmatched with the maiden special weight.
They're on the verge of like breaking through
a maiden special weight level, but they just need maybe a little softer. But the problem is they all kind of dropped into the same spot, right? Yep. So they all kind of catch horses that are trying to get the same thing. They were looking for a little softer, not necessarily going to get it in this one. A really competitive start to the late pick 5. Let's turn the page and start the late pick 4 in the 7th race at Churchill. This is a maiden special weight race, and it's one of the restricted races for horses that sold or RNA for 65 or less in the most recent auction. It's going 1.25 miles on the dirt. So, it's a maiden special weight race, but there are some restrictions to it, and then you're going a little bit longer here. So it's kind of unique. It's a little tricky. Just in looking at the race, Barry, of what we've seen from these horses so far, the only horse who's been remotely close to the front end is the 2.
Yeah.
Plaza Q. Like, nobody else in here has been anywhere near the front end. The 1, look, did not show any speed, right? Or that, but I think you can include the 1 because there's only the 1 race, and I could see Saez getting aggressive with this horse from the inside. You scroll through the rest of the field with the horses who have, because anytime a horse has run once, we don't know what they are yet. We don't know their running style. Something could have happened. They could have got out of the gate. So we don't know who they are. Everybody else in here that we've seen running 4, 15, 11, Ashes and Diamonds is one that I could see too. If you want to use, I could see this horse being close just by default, because there's not much other early speed in here. And she's stretching out from 7 to 1.25 miles. 7 hasn't been close. 8 hasn't been close. So there's a lot of these horses The reason why they want to go 1.25 miles is because they're not really very fast early on.
Yeah, and that's why I think the one is holding all the cards here, because the two has not totally proven he's faint-hearted, or she is.
No, but she's been
But
beat.
close.
Yeah, she's absolutely. And the last race we can totally eliminate from the slop and say sloppy
Right,
track.
she didn't like
that.
that.
Doesn't bother me at all. The 3 races before that, though, you do have one as a beaten favorite, and you have 2 other races where she's sort of in the mix. And remember, while I do think that of any short prices, like I'm using her for sure because I think she's the horse to beat, but she's got to go 1.25 miles too. Right. So it's not like she's a horse who we're for sure is going to get this extra distance either. She just, I think, is the most likely winner of the race compared to some of the others who have to come from way out of it. I think if you're looking for a horse to bet and one that you absolutely are using in your pick 4s and pick 5s, it's the one.
Yeah. I mean, even the pedigree on that horse, there's a lot of speed in that pedigree, horses that like to get to the front. And I think Joe Sharp is well aware of that. I believe he's holding all the cards in this race. Even his second horse, the 6 Ashes and Diamonds, could get a good setup.
Yeah.
If those top 2 kind of duel a little bit, they're not going to be all out because there's really not much speed. But even them occupying themselves could tire themselves enough for a horse like Ashes and Diamonds to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I thought that those are the 3 that I had. I had 2, 1, 6 as
and then
the 3.
7 was I want to throw in the 7 a little bit. Seemed to improve last time, and I think getting into this company, this horse is going to be a little bit closer than she was last time. Hopefully, Le Peru can kind of get the same sort of trip that the 6 might want, and that would be ideal in this spot.
2 horses who I think will run well at 1.25 miles, but I just don't know if I can use them on the win end with their form overall. Like the 4, Churning Bernie, who's 0 for 15, right? I think I don't like her on the win end, but I think going 1.25 miles will probably help her where she can just kind of sit back and make one late run. And it is sort of interesting that Irad jumps aboard her. And then to the out, but again, I'm probably not going to use her here. I think others are better and I like others more at the price. I just think she'll run well at 1.25 miles. Same for the 8, Vino Tiempo. Feel like this horse will run fine here, getting a little more real estate. This is a horse who just makes like real gradual, long kind of sustained runs and need to build up a little bit. I just don't know if they're going to get the pace to chase in here.
Yeah.
And right, we're talking about they're going to be so far behind horses like the 1, the 2, and the 6. Those horses will have such a jump and a tactical edge on them that I'm just leaning on the horses who I think are going to be a lot closer early in this race.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict when races like this collapse because of the fact on paper it looks very slow.
Yeah,
but there's obviously situations where all these horses are just faint-hearted, and
right?
one just passes everybody.
Or you see like a couple of them are saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's get a little more aggressive," and then all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them go to the front. Right, all 3 of the horses we're mentioning, the 1, 2, and 6 in the first quarter, they're all sort of jockeying for position, going way faster than you think, and it kind of keeps the race open for these horses.
Well, not to mention these are maidens. We can't forget that. And they do different things when they haven't won yet and they're young like this. A lot of chaos can happen. These first 2 races of this sequence are super, super tough.
Not easy at all. We move to the 8th race, which is 1 mile and a 16th. It's a 50 non-winners of 2 going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. And another like really just challenging race, because you have a horse like the 1 Smooth Waves who's 7-2 on the morning line. And this horse is getting some class relief dropping in for a tag, but is just 1 for 12 on the turf and hasn't been close in the last couple. You have Talent Show, who's never tried the turf, but was really impressive last time in a much softer race on the synthetic. The 4 Bred to Run gets back to the grass. Kind of interesting races on the grass when you look at them in the overall form. Kind of feels like she's got some upside. I'm just a little worried that she's going to get bet because there's not a lot of horses in here to kind of look at and say, I'm going to want to bet, right? She might be one that just looks good to the public. Second start off the bench, kind of lightly raced. The 6 even has some decent turf form, who's kind of a long shot here. The 7, Cheyenne Moon, another one who I can build cases for this horse. The 8 Angel of Faith wants to sit close up throughout, move towards the outside. Even the 10, 9 and 10, like the 9, look at Life Advice's race on the grass. That was pretty good. This horse should be forwardly placed and showing some speed. There's just no standout here. And again, a lot of ways you can go. 8's coming out of tough races. The same thing with the 7. So while they may not be as good on the turf, they're getting some class relief here. Who are some of the horses that you want to start with?
This is a really interesting race, especially from a betting standpoint, because typically when you have these kind of races, like these first 3 where everybody sort of looks the same.
Yeah.
I tend to try to throw down field and look for horses that people might not be looking at. In this race, that would be number 5, Sweet Voyage. Now, hear me out. This is a lot of horse player logic here. So this horse started off on the turf and ran decently both times. January 1st, last New Year's Day, and then the 24th of November of the same year. So clearly this horse has physical issues. Comes back rather quickly in January on the synthetic, which I sincerely don't think this horse wants any part of. But the next race, they go long and the horse wins out, which tells me that A, that this horse probably wants to go long, and B, because of the other races, probably wants the turf, and C, this horse improved over that time span from his last turf race. You see the succession of workouts leading up to this race. I'm going to give this horse a shot.
This is a race to take a shot. Absolutely.
Exactly.
The comes out of a first level allowance last time out at Turfway behind Missy B. I have no knocks. I mean, I'm just looking for strong cases on some of these bigger prices. I looked at the 6.
Right, and even that last race was an optional claimer 25,000, which is better race than this one.
Absolutely.
And dropping in makes a whole lot of sense. Going long on the turf first time, I hope we get that 15-1, honestly.
Yeah, the 6 I looked at so grass races overall, you have 1 at Kentucky Downs where the horse got off slow. You have 1 at Indy, breaking the maiden, which was just like a softer group. Then faced first level allowance company at Kentucky, ran into a really nice horse named Cahoe Beach, who just finished 3rd in the grade 1 Jenny Wiley after winning the grade 2 Miss Revere. So grade 1 placed, really tough horse to run down when she gets loose on the front end. So you kind of go through her races, and a couple of them are at Kentucky that you can probably eliminate. How about the race at Keeneland going 1 mile and 3/16 last time against way tougher? This was a strong group. Random Harvest is a nice toner horse who's 2 for 3 and finished 2nd the only time they lost. Public Assembly came back out of that race to win next time out and has won 2 of the last 3 and just beat first level allowance company at Santa Anita. Shiloh's Mistress was in there. She is graded stakes placed. She almost won the Providencia. I remember that day because there was no speed in that race. I thought she would get the lead. She did. She just got nailed late that day. But there's some ability in the race. Like there's some talent in the fields that she's faced. They are just way better than this group here. And she's been getting class relief. She kind of woke up last time out with that decent 3rd at Turfway. She gets back to the grass where I think she has a little more upside. She's going to have to be coming from the clouds, but she's one of the horses who I'm probably going to throw in this race.
Yeah, you got to give her a shot because she's going to be motoring home late. The elephant in the room is the 1 horse, Smooth Waves.
Yeah.
I think that this horse is going to get an excellent trip. Just doesn't like to finish off races, though.
No, she's faced a lot better in her career. Like this is her first time in for a tag. All of her other races have been against first level allowance company and against protected company. But
I think she's at the point where it's like, it's now or never.
Exactly. You get like 1 or 2 in the drop. And what's tough with her now is that she's coming off of just bad form in her last 2. Earlier on in her career, she had some races where, like, if you're playing her off the October race at Keeneland, she's extremely live, dropping off that runner-up effort. But the last 2 times we saw her on the course, raced 8th out of 12, beaten 4 lengths. Then she was off for 4 months. She shows back up, raced 8th out of 9, she's basically kind of eased up at the end of the race where she's beaten 15 lengths and she's off again for 2.5 months.
I want to try to beat her,
but I think she's going to run
is
well.
so much
no, I
better
agree.
than everybody else's. It's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
But being on the rail is quite the disadvantage because, Ired's going to have to force the issue a little bit to get good position. And
she hasn't really passed horses.
She's not
either.
really right. And I think that's their only option. And that's
because if she gets to the front and she's or she's sitting like really close going into the first turn, then she's got a shot. I don't know if she's going to have to come from way, way out of it, if that's even what she wants to do.
Right. I mean, it's going to be tough because who else is going to press? I mean, the 8 or the 9, maybe. But if the 1 gets to the spot, they're all going to back off.
He's got to go with her to the inside and try to hold that position because the 8 would be the one who I think should be able to sit a really nice trip. The thing with the 8, we don't really know turf-wise based on like direct pedigree. There's nothing here when you're looking at on the downside. It's more of a getting the drop in class and sitting a good trip in here versus necessarily loving the surface. In the 9 should be pretty close too.
Sure.
Life Advice, whose best races come when on the lead. But that's always the funny situation with the brothers.
Right.
Like, are they right?
Who's going to go? Who's not going to go?
One can go. One can sit second. Go ahead. Take the lead, brother. Yeah.
One thing worth noting, though, with the Churchill turf, in the recent years, I'd say the last, let's say, year and a half, that turf course has played more like dirt.
Yeah.
And that might factor into races like this, where you have a horse like Angel of Faith getting on that kind of turf for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He may take to it and be okay. So that's something to think about, especially in the prior races before you get to this point. But definitely something to keep in the back of your head.
So another really difficult race. Barry started like the 5 Sweet Voyage here. Horses that'll be in the mix for me. The 4 Bred to Run for sure. The 6 definitely going to be in the mix for me at a price. The 8, who I think can sit really close. Anyone else you wanted to mention in here?
The 4 is kind of interesting a little bit.
Yeah.
Has the potential to jump up and kind of improve here. And this horse actually could be the forgotten horse, and you might get a better price than that 9-2.
I'd love
which would be great.
Yeah, because I think she's a really good fit. Some of her races, she's not really even been overmatched all that much in races that she faced tougher. The only race that she was in for a claiming tag was when she broke her maiden at Turfway. Since then, she stepped up and was in good races and good spots. So, I'm going to give the 4 a big long look here too. As we turn the page to the stakes race, the opening night stakes, it's the Roxalana. And they'll go 6 furlongs here on the dirt. Not a ton of speed in this race, Barry, just on paper. Sandy Bottom comes in. It's funny because she's fine. I just don't love her, but she does look like she is going to be the one that probably gets to control things up front. The 1 non-violence might be able to show some speed from the inside position and kind of force her a little bit. I don't think she's quite as quick naturally, but based on like intent and the post position draw, that's what they may have to do to sort of hold position down there. From a speed standpoint, the 7 Girls Weekend would probably be the other one that could push them early on in the race. I like the 5 in here, Barry.
Yes.
Mutia. Right.
Yes. Yeah, this horse got to be loaded and sitting on a great race. I mean, this should set up perfectly for this horse.
Yeah.
And I like the steady works coming into it off of a so-so effort at Tampa.
You can kind of look at her poor races, and they've come against horses that are really good and would be like heavy favorites in a race like this. So you see her kind of be overmatched by a horse like named Hall and Ice. She actually beat Hall and Ice before that, but look what Hall and Ice has done recently since coming into the Safi Joseph Jr. barn.
Fuego.
I think it's won 4 of 7. And then the last 3 of the last 4 and earned a 91 and then 101 buyer speed figures in those races. So just looked really good in there. Other races where she's been a little overmatched was at Keeneland in the Raven Run behind Emery, who is a multiple grade 1 placed horse, who's just a really good
A
filly and mare
monster.
sprinter. She's super nice. She's towards the top of the division there. And then the most recent one was behind Nick Style, who's 7 for 8. And is she's only lost once, and her following the race at Tampa, she came out of that race to win the Hurricane Birdie. So if you look at the 3 races recently where she has been kind of overmatched, it was facing really nice horses who ran very good races those days. And if you just kind of cross those 3 races out and take the Nick Style race out, the Emery race out, and the race behind Hall and Ice out, you're left with really good form. This is a much softer spot than any of those horses. And I think if she's like 4-1 or above, that's probably fair. And if she's in that 4 or 5-1 range, I really like her too. Even getting a little like bet. She could just sit a good trip in here too, right? 3rd or 4th behind some of those speed horses we mentioned.
Absolutely. I think she gets one of the best trips in this race. Sandy Bottom, I think, is a little faint-hearted. This horse sees another horse, he stops.
Yeah.
Or she stops. And I think she's going to have all she can handle with nonviolence. But Lady Moscato is a horse that, for the coach, and it's tough to catch the coach because he runs his horses a lot and he runs them in and out of form. Lady Moscato came off the bench from October to December and ran a really good race, 2 races, and then 2 kind of bad ones. I mean, not really bad. Like you said, you mentioned Hall and Ice, who won that race.
And maybe we can eliminate the muddy track, right? Race.
Right.
Give her a little bit of an excuse for that one last time out too.
Yeah, and it would make sense for this horse to pop back onto form on the switch to this new track. She showed sort of an affinity for it before, but again, it's just the setup makes a lot of sense here because Lady Moscato and Muccia should be kind of getting the same sort of trip.
One other horse I wanted to mention was the 6. I would like this horse to be a little bit bigger of a price. We'll see what she ends up going off at. I think she fits here, and when you kind of dig into her form, she has the best last out Beyer speed figure. She beat a horse named Easy Red, who's actually been in really good form, has won 3 of the last 4. And in the February race, they showed a lot more speed with her than she'd shown before, when she was always more of like a deep closer. And I just like that they were able to use that and kind of put her into the race from the rail in a small field. That was her first, what I don't love. That was her first start in 3 months. She has a race in February. Then look at her work tab. She works on March the 10th. Then there's nothing for a month.
Yeah.
And then she works the 9th and the 19th. So could she come into this race and win or run well? Sure. But with Iradabor and a horse who's only 3-1 on the morning line, I can see her being shorter than what I would like to play her at. So that you got to kind of go back and forth sometimes with horses that you like. Like she looks like she's training well coming in, but that's not like one missing work I'm okay with, because sometimes that's like a weather thing. Sometimes the horse just doesn't get published on the tab, right? They just like miss them. Like there can be excuses for one missing work.
Right. You can't miss a whole month.
A whole month. Yeah. Once you get into like 3 weeks or 4 weeks and a month between works, then I really will poke holes. So that's Harbor Springs. The other one that we didn't really mention at all that I kind of wanted just to mention because I think she's faced good company is the 4 Tripolina. So she ran well in her debut sprinting. Second start, sprinting again, she wins a stakes race. She beats the boys. Following that, she stretches out. She's going long a couple times. Then she's back here at Woodbine sprinting, and you can see them kind of building her up. She ran fine off the bench, then a little bit better, and then even better at Oaklawn Park when second to Hall and Ice, who we were just talking about. Following that, she stretches back out, which she doesn't want to do, and she doesn't really run that well at Oaklawn Park. She cuts back to a sprint, and she's rolling late, and she finishes 4th at Oaklawn Park. She went long again last time. She doesn't really want to go long, right?
Yeah, I don't know where this horse fits, but this horse has talent. It's
Yeah.
just where is this a 6 furlong horse? Is this a miler? Is this a
Because
mile?
I would like her better at like 7, probably, right? Like a six
That's
and a
what it
half,
seems like.
7, because 6 might be short for
Sure.
her. But if you're spreading around and using some in here, she's not outclassed by this group. She's just kind of weird from like a style standpoint. Like, what are we going to expect from her running style? So,
No, she's definitely a great underneath type
yeah,
play for trip, tries and supers.
closing for sure.
Yeah.
Another like tricky race. It's Barry and I start with the 5 Muccia, and that's fine. Like, you want to have a strong opinion in some of these races, but she's not a cinch. She's not going to be like a short. She's a horse we like in the spot, thinking it's going to be a good spot for her, but tough ninth race, excuse me, for opening night stakes race at Churchill. Let's move to the closeout. 6 furlongs, maiden, $100,000 claimers. So, Barry, horses that will probably take some support in here. You have Studney from the inside, who was second, in a kind of similar spot at Oaklawn Park, probably against a little bit softer. But you have Evan on Earth, who has run second 3 times, the last 2 times. What's funny about him, though, like, if I think people may look at him and kind of say, this horse doesn't want to win, or he might be like, a hanger. I think it's interesting that he's actually never been favored. So what that tells me is in these races he's losing, there's always at least another horse or two that looks a little more logical than him on paper. So I don't know if I would call a horse like that, like a hanger or a horse who can't win. When I see them getting beat over and over in races where they're like a heavy favorite, then it concerns me a bit. So for them, they're kind of starting over now. They get a little bit of a class drop. It's a $100,000 maiden claimer, so it's still a high level maiden. He has speed. He's down to the inside. But my concern would be trip wise, like the 1 also has some speed, and then you've got the 6 who also showed some speed last time out, and you have a couple other first time starters you don't really know. The 10 is really quick as well. So while I think you start with the 3 because he's faced some nice horses, you see Just a Touch in there, who we saw come back and crush. He lost to Mystic Dan in his debut, Doncho, Pure Force, who is the next out winner. So solid races, solid horses, but he will have some other speed to keep him company from the outside.
Yeah, it's crazy because the 3, Evan on Earth, no matter what this horse does, isn't going to get the best trip. Because if they try to, stalk, let's say, you have all that other speed that's going to be in front.
Push you back and shuffle you maybe a little bit, right?
Right. I don't think this horse can finish races off like that.
No, I don't either.
And then if they go to the lead, it may compromise all the speed and then fade out of the picture. So it's just tough for me to see how this horse
easy trip for him as a 7-5 shot that you would like to project for a horse like that normally.
Exactly. Because the 1 obviously has a lot of speed. I think the 2 might show a lot of speed. You see those last 2 works, getting Messiah's.
Yep. Down on the inside. You don't want to this horse doesn't want to get shuffled back. They want to at least be coming out of the gate and forward.
Right. And that's the horse I think that can actually out sprint these and possibly win, but we'll get to that later. But the 7 horse interests me because of the pace scenario.
Yep, that's the one I started with too.
Has shown to be able to pass horses, needed that first race. The experience I'm probably sure went a long way. And I expect to see this horse a lot closer, has a better post position this time, training forwardly into this race. I think this horse is probably going to get the best trip out of everybody. Whether he wins or not is another story, but 15-1 seems like a good opportunity, even though we're not going to get 15-1. Just based off the connections alone, you probably won't get that, but half that makes a lot of sense.
So, lost to a horse named Ancient World in the debut. Did this horse come back and win today?
Yes.
Yes. So
the 9th race, I think, or 8th or 9th.
Yep. So obviously the race has come back live so far, and Where You At showed some serious ability in that race too. Was 4th, and then the pace factor in the race ran off, and he got a little distanced first time out, but he really got into his best strides late. seriously. And I just think with a little more focus in this race and with the way the race could shape up, where you at? Isn't it funny too with like Dallas Stewart? I know it's not always this way. It's not like he doesn't train horses that have speed, but doesn't it always seem like he's got the closers? Like the
Yeah,
horses
man.
that are coming from way out of it.
Didn't he have like a streak of a couple of derbies where he hit the board with
those long
shots?
shots that finish second and third? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it feels like this is this type of horse here. Where you at is the horse that I started with. So you and I were on the same page here as well. I'll mention the 8 too. I think Shepherd gets a little class relief. Last time out was just super, super wide and just never really had it. They didn't really make a decision. He's faced some good horses. He's another, though, that like trip-wise, I think they just want to take back, sit, and then push the button because he's going to have to come from way, way out of it in here sprinting. Like he has talent, but when they try to get him up close, he seemed like he didn't really finish. So I'm concerned about his trip, but I think he fits with this group.
Oh yeah, certainly fits. If you put a line through that last race at Keeneland, he fits very, very well.
Yeah.
I think you can even eliminate that March 8th race.
Didn't going really longer. He moved early, right? You could see he was way out of it, and he made this huge early move to the front end.
It honestly doesn't seem like he wants to go long anyway.
No.
I know he had that one race.
It's like he's got a move in him.
Right.
Like that's what it looks like. They just got to sort of time it right and make sure he's not too far out of the race.
Yeah, and I think Jose is the best fit for a horse like
that's a good call. He is.
Do that.
Yeah, you're right.
And so he's very interesting, especially one that could kind of fall through the cracks a little bit, and people fall asleep at the wheel with a horse like that, especially with a horse like Evan on Earth, who you can't ignore the class. I mean, you got Just a Touch, Doncho, Mystic Dan, trust issues at Pure Force. I mean, every race this horse has been in has been good, but it just seems like this horse just doesn't want to finish off races and isn't going to get the most ideal trip for a horse that's probably going to be 6 to 5-ish. It's going to be tough to take.
Yeah. I mean, again, he fits. Like he's the horse to start with, but there is a lot of speed to his outside. A horse like the 7, where you at is where I'm going to be looking from a win wager standpoint. Shepherd will be in the mix for me too. And then you talked a lot about the 2, the first time starter here, Outdoor Cat, who's training well and maybe can just kind of sneak away down on the inside. This is a challenging opening night pick 5. Really, really tricky.
Rough. Yeah, it should pay. I mean, I don't see this getting 3 favorites.
No, and even if a couple of them are, they're probably not heavy favorites.
Right.
We're probably in like the 3 to 1-ish range for a few of them. So best of luck to everyone playing the pick 5 this weekend on Saturday night, opening night at Churchill Downs. Head on over to shop.drf.com and check out the Kentucky Derby packages, a couple different options for Friday and for Saturday. Barry, sounds like you guys on the notorious OTB going to have a busy week next week as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely dance card filled. I think we got a few hour shows next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So definitely check us out, man. We're going to be everywhere.
Good luck to everyone playing the races. Barry will join me next week. We'll do some previews. We'll probably have an Oaks Day preview and then a Derby Day preview. You'll see me doing stuff all over the Daily Racing Form YouTube as well. So wish you all the best of luck and go get those Derby packages now. Save 39%.